I thought it was great yesterday that NASCAR was on NBC and went head-to-head with F1 on ABC. Versus usually we're buried on cable and they're on network. So it'll be interesting to see how the ratings do. I bet we're triple what they were. We'll see. This isn't my what an idiot, but there was some debate this week about how do teams grow fan affinity of the team. And I think a prime example of this is in football, Tom Brady left the Patriots and he went to the Buccaneers. Patriot fans stayed Patriot fans.
Some of them.
Most of them.
I know some that were like.
I'm not saying that they didn't go support the Bucs, but if you're a Dallas Cowboys fan and Dak Prescott leaves,
no,
most of you are going to stay a Dallas Cowboys fan. And the debate was brought up this week in our
slight
sport.
Difference between Dak and Tom Brady.
Same thing, regardless of how you think it's not. Same thing.
How many
7 or 8. But when you look at our sport, and the debate is, we need fans to stay fans of a team when a driver leaves. There are very, very, very few instances where this applies. And I think probably the two most history teams where this has always applied in my lifetime was if you were a Wood Brothers Racing fan, you were a Wood Brothers Racing fan no matter who drove that 21 car. It didn't matter if it was David Pearson. It didn't matter if it was Morgan Shepherd, Michael Waltrip, Elliott Sadler. You were a Wood Brothers fan through and through. Richard Petty. You grew up a Richard Petty fan. You were a 43 fan. No matter who drove that car, you remained somewhat of a Petty fan. Obviously, Richard Petty is now not in an ownership role, so that's changed a little bit. Trackhouse is probably the closest thing I see right now to trying to develop the brand and do things that would make a fan stay loyal to a team. But at the end of the day, if Brad Keselowski sells his interest in Roush Fenway Keselowski today and he leaves and he goes to Rick Ware Racing, every single Keselowski fan is going to leave and go with him. It's just the way it is. Our fan base grows up attracted to, and I don't mean physically, I mean genuinely attracted to a person's persona, their talent, the color of the car they drive, all these things. But we form a relationship with the driver. That's never going to change for race fans. We're never going to stick around at a team when a different driver might have got my driver fired or my driver might have quit to go somewhere better. Like, I think, the debate was brought up, and I'm all for being a part of the debate, but I think that we're missing how old school our fans are always going to be no matter how old they are.
I think to your point, I being at the 43 for a few years, I got added to every group chat or group, 43 fans or whatever it was, and there's just a loyal group of fans that are going to be a fan of the now, maybe not so much because of, just kind of switching over legacy. Yeah. But for all those years, they were Richard Petty fans they didn't matter who drove to 43.
No.
They were 43 fans. And the same with the Wood Brothers. But and now you're going to have, take our team, for example, people could be, somebody a Michael Jordan fan is going to bring him into the sport. They're going to just be a fan of the 2311 team, no matter who's driving it. So, but yeah, I agree with you on that.
If Bubba leaves 2311 tomorrow, all the Bubba fans are leaving.
Yeah.
They're following him. Go ahead,
we didn't made our stars got so big though, like no matter where Dale Jr. went, they were going. Tony, all them guys, wherever that driver went, he had such a following, and it wasn't just the team. Man, those guys were.
I think that's an age thing though. I think to your point, Wood Brothers, like right now, I think just message us 2311 in Trackhouse, you do see how they're making efforts to have that same affinity, have the same fandom that a Wood Brothers had, the history, the relationships that they have with their fans. I think they're doing a good job, and I do think that this is an age where the older demographics were just more loyal to a team because of where they started.
Well, plus, if you look at it, whenever whoever wins the race, you don't know who them crew guys are. You don't know who that mechanic is. You don't know. You might the crew chief, but you might
not know the crew chief though.
You do now with
not as much. I mean, when a little kid watches
teams.
when a kid watches that driver win, he doesn't. All he knows is that driver. He doesn't know most of the time.
But with social media, I think Joe Gibbs Racing has done a great job of highlighting their pit crew and highlighting the guys behind
Who's
the
the crew
scenes.
chief for the 42 Cup car, Casey?
I'm not saying them. I'm saying Joe Gibbs.
I'm saying people identify with drivers. Drivers
Yeah,
are
agree.
the stars.
I
Yes.
agree, but I do think teams have done a better job now.
I
More recently.
don't disagree with that. I'm just saying, like, if Tony Stewart leaves Joe Gibbs Racing to start Stewart Haas Racing, he's going to take all of his fans with him. The only thing I think you have an opportunity to capture your fan is Jeff Gordon retires. All right. Now, who's going in the 24, right? Dale Jarrett retires. Who's going in the 88? You know, Rusty Wallace retires. Who's going in the 2? I mean, this year, Kevin Harvick is retiring. You think all those fans are going to jump on the Josh Berry bandwagon?
No.
Some of them are.
Look at Bowman.
you think-
Bowman inherited.
A perfect example of
decent fan
that
base.
is Jeff Gordon. Jeff Gordon retires. Who goes into 24?
William Byron.
Chase Elliott.
Chase.
Chase Elliott, and they realize we're going to build a whole different brand around Chase Elliott.
Yeah.
Chase Elliott's got to get in the 9
In the
because
9.
and then
Yeah, his
and
dad's
then
number.
and then you put Byron in the 24. But that's just that was a case of this is not the Rainbow Warriors anymore. This is Chase's team. Well, not really. All right, let's go and switch Chase to the 9 and put somebody else in
Yeah,
the 24.
I forgot about that.
So it's just it is based
Well,
solely on
look
driver.
at Bowman, though, man. He inherited.
One of the team owners said, and it might even been Keselowski that said this, it's a terrible return on investment for us to invest in what that is. And I agree with whoever said that because the affinity is always going to lie, for the most part, in the majority, with the driver.
Yeah, and Dale leaving, but Bowman has never really had his own identity. He replaced Dale in the '88, then he replaced Jimmy in the '48. He's got a decent fan base, but I think a lot of it became because he was replacing Dale.
Well, it's because he filled in for him
Yeah, he filled in for him, and then he replaced Dale in the '88. Now he's replacing Jimmy in the '48.
Why does Josh Berry have a big fan following?
Dale Jr.
Duh. Hands
But-
Might
down.
as well
do
change
you
his name to
guys-
TJ. TJ Berry.
Do you guys notice that with William Byron specifically, obviously being in the 24, that brings a whole new fan base. But I feel like just more recently with his success that he's had on track and how much he's grown, I see more William Byron shirts out there than I did before.
Yeah, winning doesn't suck.
Right, but meaning like what you're saying about teams and drivers, yeah, he did get that fan base when he inherited the 24, but like he's also making a name for himself in a different light with his success, where it kind of died down a little bit once Jeff retired.
It's the same as Chris Buescher.
Right.
I've seen
nobody.
more
Who the
Chris
hell did you
Buescher.
ever see a Chris Buescher shirt before this year? He goes out and
Even-
wins 3 races, and now that you see shirts.
Even
everywhere.
RFK
Probably weren't even
shirts.
making Chris Buescher's right.
Even RFK shirts, I've seen way more now than I did beginning of last year. So it's just because of the
Roush Racing was on top of the world
in early
with
2000s.
5 Cup teams, 5 prominent drivers, winning every race you freaking went to, it felt like, and then they fell off the face of the earth, went from 5 Cup teams down to 2, went from 3 and 4 and 5 Xfinity teams down to 0, went from 2 trucks down to 0. Now, I think Brad's brought them back a lot of relevance because of his name, and I also think obviously the competition's gotten better in the last 24 months. But at the end of the day, I stand by the fact that the majority of fans are going to side with drivers over teams.
All
And
day.
you people that don't, I love you for that. I'm always going to be a Wood Brothers Racing fan till the day that I die, no matter who's driving their cars. But I'm going to follow certain drivers before that.